Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18.3.1 released to the public a few days ago, and there's even more to talk about since the iOS 18.3.1 is out. What's new video? We'll talk about what to expect this coming week as we're expecting new products as well as a new update, and we'll also talk about the overall experience since I've been using it full time on the iPhone 16 Pro Max and other devices, and we'll talk about your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video there's over 11,000 votes and 147 comments. I've gone through all the comments to determine what the experience is like, including battery life, performance, and more, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where we'll go over some of your comments individually. Now this week, Apple is announcing some new products. Tim Cook on Thursday actually teased a new product launch on Wednesday. He said, get ready to meet the newest member of the family, Wednesday, February 19th. And there's a new hashmoji here that says Apple launch. So we're really expecting, since it's a new member of the family, for it to be an iPhone 16e or iPhone maybe SE4. However, many people seem to think it's going to be called the iPhone 16e. So we've talked about that quite a bit in the weekly news updates, but we do expect that this week, maybe with other product launches as well. Now, I mentioned earlier this week how some users are experiencing low volume on Apple Watch Series 10. Many people all of a sudden are saying the volume is going down, and Apple is aware of this and has now published a new support document to give you a few steps to try if you're having the issue before bringing it into Apple. So I'll link this in the description, but it says if the microphone or speaker isn't working as expected on your Apple Watch, update your Apple Watch and iPhone, clean your Apple Watch, and it shows you where you can clean it on various models such as the Apple Watch Ultra and others. And then it says check for water and dry your watch, restart your watch, unpair your Apple Watch, then pair it again. And then if it continues to happen, you can get more help with this. So there's other options here as well. And it was published on February 13th. So they're definitely paying attention. Hopefully this fixes the issue, but let me know if you're experiencing that in the comments below. Now, TikTok has returned to the App Store. If we go into the App Store, you'll see it here. You can download and install it both on the App Store for Apple and Google Play as well. This should stay around for a while unless the ban is still in effect. So it still technically is in effect for another 60 days or so if no one purchases the company, but for now it's back on the App Store. So if you want to install it, you can do that, and updating to newer versions never deleted it to begin with, but many people were concerned about that. So it's available now if you want to install it and update it or more. Now, if you use Apple Maps, cycling directions are now available in new countries. So we'll go into Maps. Now in the UK and Ireland, cycling directions are available throughout the entire country. Prior to this, they were only in specific areas. It should be available now everywhere you go. So hopefully that's updated. It gives elevation and more. So if you do cycle throughout the country, it makes it a little bit easier. Something else that was updated in Apple Maps that's a bit more controversial is in the United States, at least. If we zoom in, it says Gulf of America where the Gulf of Mexico was. This is due to a recent order, and Apple updated this a day after Google did on Google Maps. So it says that now. However, in different countries, it may say Gulf of Mexico in parentheses next to it. So either way, it's been updated. Maybe that'll change eventually, but at this time, it's Gulf of America. And for the first time ever, in a very rare move for Apple, you can now migrate purchases from one Apple account to another Apple account. The feature isn't available to users in the European Union, United Kingdom, or India just yet, but you can migrate purchases. There are a few caveats to this, but it says what to do before you migrate purchases. So maybe you want to migrate them, leave family sharing, hand these off to someone else. You'll now have the option to do that. So I'll link this in the description. It's very rare for Apple to allow you to just move something from one account to another. So hopefully this gets much better in the future, but you can finally migrate purchases from one to another. And I thought this is something we'd never see. Something else I thought we'd never see, and it's the first time ever on Android, is Apple TV is available. So if we go on the S25 Ultra, we'll go to the Play Store, you'll see we now have Apple TV. So you have access to TV Plus, you can install this, it's available on the S25 Ultra and other supporting Android devices, and if you want to use it, it's available now. So it's installing, we'll give it just a second, and then you can sign in with your Apple account. So maybe you're not using an iPhone anymore, you'll still be able to have access to this, and you can get It looks like 1 week free, so it's available now. When it comes to upcoming features, well, there's quite a few things we're still expecting. Things that Apple has promised, things that people have uncovered in the code, and one of those is new emoji. Many people are waiting for some upcoming emoji, and you can find those on the Unicode Consortium or the Emojipedia website. And if we go to emojipedia.com, you can see some of the latest Unicode standard emojis here with a shovel, a harp, and a few other things. Apple will typically update their operating system throughout the year, and others comply with this as well, as this is the Unicode standard. So Android will comply, Microsoft will comply, and they all do it based on their own timeline. With the introduction of Apple Intelligence back in June at WWDC 2024, we saw quite a few features that we still don't have yet. Apple Intelligence should bring things such as priority notifications. It should be available in more parts around the world, but Apple's working on that, mostly in Europe and in China, and also updated Siri with on-screen awareness and better context. All of those things we still have yet to see roll out, and it looks like they should have been coming out with iOS 18.4, and we still haven't seen the first beta yet. Mark Gurman is now saying they may not be ready for iOS 18.4, and also a user on Reddit reported a couple days ago the same sort of thing, where the features just aren't working properly even in the beta. Some of the Siri features may now be pushed back to iOS 18.5, according to Mark Gurman. Initially, I thought the delay of seeing iOS 18.4 Beta 1 had more to do with the iPhone SE4 launch, as it could contain code Apple didn't want to get out yet, showcasing the new devices. But it seems this could be a deeper issue than that, in something that we rarely see with Apple, where their code is, well, getting more and more buggy, it's not as stable, and maybe they're just working really hard on that next version. But either way, this is something that's unexpected and definitely surprising coming from Apple, where these features are pushed back almost an entire year. Unfortunately, it's seemingly more common over the past few versions, but it was something that was once very rare for Apple. Of course, the iPhone 17 Pro Max looks like it's getting a redesign as far as the camera bar goes. In a recent leak from John Prosser, he's saying this could be the final design. However, some are saying this isn't the design and there could be something else. So either way, it does look like we're getting a redesign of some sort with the iPhone 17 models. When it comes to releases this week, well, we already had iOS 18.3.1 and oddly iPadOS 17.7.5, but still nothing for those that want to stay on iOS 17 on iPhone. So it looks like Apple's done making those updates, but for whatever reason, they're still supporting iPad. There's also a new Safari technology preview that launched this week, so if you go to that and you want to install it for macOS Sequoia or macOS Sonoma, it's version 2.13 and available now with some new release notes trying out the latest technology. There was also a day one firmware update for the new Powerbeats Pro 2. The new version is 7B24. I believe mine have already updated, but let's go ahead and take a look. We'll give it a second there. We'll go in, scroll to the bottom, and it looks like they updated. When I first opened these up and unboxed them the other day, it wasn't updated. So it updated on its own, just like AirPods as well. Now, as I mentioned before, iOS 18.4 Beta 1 will finally be this week, it seems. This would be based on Apple not wanting to show off the new iPhone SE4 or 16e, and maybe there's something to do with the code. So maybe we won't see it until the 19th, but we could see it a little bit before. But either way, I would expect iOS 18.4 Beta 1 this week finally, with some new features and more. The thing I'm a little bit more curious about is iOS 19. We have so little information so far that basically they're working on a new Siri version. We already knew that, and we saw what looks like maybe a new camera interface update from John Prosser. Other than that, we know very little about this upcoming update, and that makes me think maybe Apple's being very secretive about it and holding everything really close so that we get some sort of redesign or surprise. We'll see that in June at WWDC 2025, and I do expect them to announce that very soon. Usually around March or so, we get that announcement, and then we'll know when it takes place. So it will be on June 2nd or the 9th, and of course we'll see all the new operating systems. Of course, many people have opted to stay on older operating systems with iOS 17.7.2. Many have said it's a great experience, and they're afraid to update to iOS 18. Some have updated and said it's a great experience, but there's still some bugs here and there. Still, though, with the latest version, we haven't seen anything with battery intelligence, so we're waiting for that. It seems like it would be easy enough to implement. And what that means is if you were to plug in your iPhone, it would tell you how much time there is until it finishes charging. We've got this on Samsung and Android phones. We even have it on Mac, but so far, just not the iPhone. It's something we thought would be here already based on code, but so far we haven't seen it. However, as far as battery life in the latest update, well, it seems to be mixed, but mostly positive. Now, I've been using iOS 18.3.1 on two devices, the 16 Plus and 16 Pro Max. Using it on the 16 Plus, it's been pretty good. In fact, better than I expected. Under battery health, you'll see I have 100% capacity, 9 cycles, and I'll put battery capacity and more with coconut battery here for both devices. But you'll see overall battery life over the last 10 days. A couple days ago, I only had 2 hours and 23 minutes of screen active time or screen on time, but the day before, 4 hours and 26 minutes of screen on time, 7 hours and 30 minutes of screen off time. And I had about 45 to 50% of my battery life left. So it was really easily getting me through the day. It did improve after a couple days, so you'll see it was a little bit lower the day before with similar usage, but then it improved after a couple days of using this update. However, on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I've been using that the past day or two. If we take a look, go to battery health, I'm at 100% with 124 cycles. And over the last 10 days, well, yesterday I started using it, 2 hours and 30 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 22 minutes of screen idle time. Today so far, 3 hours and 41 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 20 minutes of screen idle time, and I'm down to 80%. It's doing phenomenally well. It's doing great for me. And based on what you said on the YouTube community poll, 65% of you say that it's as good as iOS 18.3 or better. Most say it's better in that 65%. However, that means 35% say it's worse. However, you need to remember it can take a full week for everything to finish processing in the background, so battery could still improve from what we saw with iOS 18.3 after a couple weeks. Now, initially, the overall experience of iOS 18.3.1 was quite good on the 16 Plus. I started with 18.3. It was fairly laggy. There were stutters all over. Just scrolling would stutter. It would slow down. I'd go into the camera. It would take a moment. 18.3.1 really fixed that the first day. Then the next day, it got really slow. So I don't know if it had to finish in the background, but once it did, it was very fast, smooth, and responsive, and it has been ever since. There are occasional lags and hiccup, but it seems much better overall, and it's been a better experience than 18.3. The same is true on the 16 Pro Max. In general, it seems to be smooth after a couple days. Again, it took a few days to really seem a lot better, but if we go into music, swipe home, all the micro stuttering is gone for me. So some people say it's still there, but it's gone for me. The wallpaper dimming bug is still there, so it desaturates. You can see it there. It's pretty obvious. So nice and vibrant on the lock screen, swipe home, and it desaturates. Some people are having loud volume for some notifications, mostly on the iPhone SE3 for whatever reason. It seems to be those people mentioning it are on the SE3. Again, some people are seeing stutters and micro stuttering. Some are seeing call failures. However, most people reporting that seem to be in India, so I don't know if it's due to a carrier there or some issues between the iPhone and those carriers, but either way, it seems to be something reported regularly. Also, some are saying that standby is still not working properly, so let's go ahead and try that out. We'll lock the phone, see what it looks like. Give it a second here. See if it kicks in. And those that are saying it's not working properly basically say that some of the widgets aren't showing. However, they're working fine for me. So if you're having this issue, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. They seem okay to me, but not everyone has this same experience. I haven't had any issues with standby though recently. Some are saying mail notifications are still not working properly. I would make sure you go in individually into your accounts and make sure they're set up properly. They're not attached to a focus mode or anything else, but some are still experiencing that. And some are still having keyboard lag. So if we go into notes, so while typing, some are seeing lag. And I think I saw it for the first initial moment when I started typing, but it went away. But I haven't really noticed that on the 16 Pro Max, but let me know if it's on older devices. And for whatever reason, the camera bug is still there for some people, mostly on the lock screen. If you go in the lock screen, maybe swipe to the camera, many people still see a blank or black camera. And then you have to go back in, restart the app, or sometimes even reboot to get it back. So definitely some odd issues. However, as far as performance goes, many say this is the fastest and smoothest update of iOS 18 yet. Again, there are micro stutters for some, but you'll see ProMotion is fairly smooth here, ramping up and down, but occasionally there will be stutters on older devices. I'm not sure if that's an optimization problem, but if we go into music, swipe home, you can see it on the iPhone 11. It looks a little bit slow. So for whatever reason, it's still having some issues for some, but not on the newest devices. When it comes to heat, it seems to be managed pretty well. I have noticed today this phone is a little bit warmer than normal, but it's barely warm. But let's take a look either way and see what it's like. I decided to use the 16 Plus and 16 Pro Max. Both are running iOS 18.3.1, and on the 16 Pro Max, it's a little bit warm, almost at 33 degrees Celsius. On the 16 Plus, you'll see at the hottest point here around the processor, we're at about 28.8 or 29 degrees Celsius. So definitely good on the 16 Plus, but the 16 Pro Max is a little bit warmer than I saw before. When it comes to benchmarks, well, I did run those, and those are some of the best ever. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, all devices here are running either iPadOS 18.3.1 or iOS 18.3.1, and from left to right, we have the M4 iPad Pro 13-inch, then the iPhone 11, then the iPhone 16 Plus, then the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And these are some of the highest scores I've seen. They're definitely at the higher end, and if we take a look at the 16 Pro Max, you'll see earlier that we had a little bit lower. I had to run it a couple times, but the highest score I've had in a while is 8,758 for multi-core. Prior to that was the day I installed the update, February 10th. You'll see it was 8,842. But either way, it's well within the margin of error and some of the best scores we've seen in a very long time. So overall, very impressive, and that's true on all these devices as well. Now, as far as the overall experience, let's take a look at the comments and see what you had to say. Dr. Shardul Bandhu says, my battery life is good, but I'm still having issues with the camera getting blacked out and non-responsive at times. The occasional micro stutters have not been fixed. iPhone 16 Pro Max. mpro.98 said, running 18.3.1 on my iPhone 14 Pro Max, I feel it's running smoother than all the previous little patches. Quad Rider Honda says, 16 Pro Max battery on 18.3.1 holds a charge a little better for me than 18.3. Pretty good update so far, having no issues with it, smooth and snappy. Ro Hunter says 14 Pro Max and XS both on 18.3.1. Battery life is stellar compared to what feels like all the previous versions in a long time. XS feels a lot faster, and 14 Pro Max may be just a little bit snappier. No new bugs to report yet. This update seems to be very good indeed. Thuan Fazil Marso 3323 said, the most stable update on my 18 as my 15 Pro Max running iOS 18.3.1 and my battery has been so much better and performance is absolutely amazing. I hope it will continue same. Bernie1491 says, it seems like iOS 18.3.1 is the most stable update under iOS 18 on my 15 Pro Max. No issues with switching from photo to video, no touch stutters anymore, battery is very good as it should be with 100% and 125 cycles. Waiting for 18.4 and a useful Siri 2 Gen. When it comes to CarPlay connectivity, I have had it drop on 2 different vehicles. So I've seen that on a couple vehicles, I've seen that mentioned in comments from time to time, and I don't know if that's because Apple changes something and the vehicle doesn't understand the compatibility, or maybe the vehicles need an update. Either way, it's still annoying for those of us that use CarPlay regularly, and it can drop from time to time. It will connect right back up, but then sometimes it will drop again. So let me know what kind of car you have in the comments below if you're experiencing the issue. So that's everything with iOS 18.3.1. The verdict seems to be that iOS 18.3.1 generally has pretty good battery life, fixes a lot of the weird bugs we've been having, but still needs a little bit more work, but it's fairly important given the security update that was included with it. As far as this coming week, I'm looking forward to see what's announced, iPhone SE4 or iPhone 16e, hopefully a few other things, and iOS 18.4 as well. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.